Well, hey, man, it's great to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. So let's begin our adventure this way. I want to know 5 years ago, this pandemic began, really threw us all into the unknown. So many things changed. How did you make it through that pandemic, and how has it influenced your work and creativity in 2025?
Um, I own a small business that was affected in a way by the pandemic. And I run the business from home. So the pandemic didn't affect me getting out and getting to a job so much, but it did affect the amount of clients and the kinds of clients I could take on.
Yeah.
I am president of a company called Bridge to America Culture and Education Consulting, and we help Chinese students apply to universities and private schools in America. So the pandemic affected us by putting a real damper on their ability to come here for school. Um, but we adapted and survived.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If I was to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day to get to the idea of what you do on a daily basis, and one of the kids was like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I would say I'm an educational consultant, which means, well, that's just one of the things I do,
Yeah.
which means I help young kids, high school kids, fill out their college applications and help them apply to colleges over here in the United States. And we help younger kids also apply to private junior high and high schools in the United States. But other than that, I'm also an author. So I spend my time writing, working on my books.
So what did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What was your dream life?
An inventor. I wanted to be
Okay.
an inventor.
Okay.
My boyhood hero was Thomas Edison,
Okay.
and I was always into science. So, I grew up being a scientist basically from a young age. But my dream, I always loved to invent also. So my dream was to be able to have a business and make a living from my ideas.
So you're obviously very well diversified. You got the right and left brain working. Take me back to your childhood. What were these seeds that were planted that eventually were harvested and evolved into who you were?
Uh, I became interested in science from a very young age, probably fourth or fifth grade, somewhere around there. And I just became fascinated with science, especially chemistry. And it was from that point on that I loved science. And as a teenager, I spent a lot of time in a lab that I built in my parents' garage doing experiments.
So when I'm an 80s kid, I think about the dad in Gremlins. Did you remember how much all the inventions that he was doing?
I remember the movie vaguely.
Okay.
That was decades ago for
It
me.
it was a long time ago. But yeah,
Yeah.
he was a big inventor. So what was the first invention idea that you had that you were just convinced it was going to win?
Oh, from a young age, I was always drawing ideas. I had, a box full of, sheets of paper that I drew all kinds of ideas on for all different kinds of gadgets. So I can't remember anything specific.
Okay. What about as far as your writing brain is concerned? What was the first book that you read that really captivated you? One of your favorite books growing up?
Growing up, it was mm, a lot of science, a
Yeah.
lot of chemistry. Um, one thing that so I didn't read a lot of literature. Cosmos by Carl Sagan had a big influence on me.
Yeah.
So I had his book and I watched the TV series that he made, and that was very awe-inspiring.
Yeah. I would say so. So, who's been an inspiration for you? Who's been kind of a heroic figure in your life?
Thomas Edison and Albert Einstein.
Okay.
the scientist and the inventor, and that's always been who I am.
So if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, who would you love to meet and talk to?
People that are alive right now, there's no one in particular I really admire. Um,
How about a ghost? Someone from that's not here anymore.
well, again, it would be those two, Einstein or Edison.
Well,
Also Thomas Jefferson. I always admired Jefferson from a young age.
is there something you would like to know? Was there a question you would like to ask him that has not been fielded that you'd be curious about?
I've always been interested, like with Edison or Jefferson, I would always love to tell them about the modern world.
Yeah,
Not so much of a question, um, but I would like to show them how things are and how things work these days, the technology that, they had no clue about back then. For Jefferson, I always admired him for being a powerful intellect. However, there was the character flaw in him dealing with when it came to slavery. So I would like to confront him on that issue.
yeah,
I admire him for so many other things, except that aspect of his life. I would want to talk to him about.
for sure. So let me ask you this. AI has really taken off. I mean, AI has been in all of these devices in our homes and we've had Siri and all these things, but it's really accelerated. Does it make you nervous? Does AI make you nervous as to where it's going? And, human beings historically get a hold of things and it can go south. Do you have any reservations or fears?
I would not say I have real fears. I mean, there's always the potential. There is always the unknown. Um, Things that are impossible to predict, but I wouldn't say I have any real fears about it. Right now, AI is a tool. It's nowhere near a threat. It has the potential in the short term to start taking away the jobs of creators, like artists, people in the entertainment industry, the movie makers, um, even people who do things like voiceovers, professional voiceover, voice, I don't know if you call them artists, uh, pr- um, people who do voiceovers and do the graphic artwork and the video work. AI is basically as good as what people can do, or almost as good as what people can do now. And even when, stuff I've created for myself, I have not had to hire a voice actor. I have not had to hire a videographer or a graphic artist. I can do it all myself. So I can understand the trepidation in those fields about what AI is doing right now and has the potential to do. I think people who really fear the future when it comes to AI have watched too many Terminator movies. That you hear those people say, "Oh, they're going to take over the world and humanity's going to go extinct." Well, that's just a fantasy right now,
Yeah,
um, which I don't take very seriously.
yeah. So let me ask you this. What talk to me about your latest book?
Well, I've got a book published which is on the subject of artificial intelligence, more specifically robot rights. Um, Talking about artificial intelligence and in the future, it's about what are the possibilities in the near future? What's going to happen in the near future? At some point, machines will become conscious.
Yeah,
And we don't know when that's going to happen exactly, but it is in the possible, foreseeable future. And when machines become conscious, the question then becomes the ultimate moral question that humanity will be faced with is what are our moral obligations to those beings? If a machine is conscious, then our are we forced to consider them as people? The question will become, are they people or property? Humanity will have to face that question. If they have to be considered people, then are we morally obligated to treat them the same way we treat any human, giving them the same legal protections, and the same human rights that humans give themselves? The same freedoms, rights, legal protections, uh, uh, all the things that humans deem as central to their own existence. So that's what, this book is all about. It's called Can You Rape a Robot? Morality, Rights, and the Rise of Conscious Machines. It looks at that question. It looks at the central question of robot rights. What will we be obligated to give these kinds of machines the same rights as humans? Um, and it looks at the question of, what are those human rights,
Yeah.
um, and what are the consequences of either granting or denying machines these rights? And which rights or any rights will they be um, have the right to have?
Yeah.
So that's one published book I've done recently. I've just finished another uh, novel called The Secret of the Dragon's Scale. Now that's fiction. It's a pirate story.
Yeah.
So I've finished writing that, and I'm in the process of trying to get it published.
Okay. So, what is the motivation for you every day to wake up to do this work? Whether you're helping kids get into college or you're writing a good story, anything that's a part of this world, this mix of things that you do, what is the motivator every day for you?
Well, it's always satisfying to help a young person with their life, get on with their life and do something important with their life. And obviously getting into a good college is central to, the future of so many kids. So it's very satisfying when they're so happy that they got into their dream school, something like that. So that's a motivator to do that business. I've got a lot of I've got my creative side also, and my intellectual interest. So artificial intelligence and the future of how it's going to affect the future of society is what motivates me to write my books on the subject. But then, I have the creative side and I have a lot of ideas I like to express, I want to be able to express. So I enjoy that creative process. The fiction books I write are a product of that desire to express my creativity. So I've got, like this pirate story I've just finished. I've got a couple other science fiction stories I've started. I want to get back to. So I enjoy being creative in those ways, and that's what motivates me.
So, let me ask you this. If I was to put you in front of a bunch of people in a room that know you in a professional sense, that you've helped throughout the years, or that you've worked with, or that have read your books, and you could tell them one fun story, one cool adventure that you've been on, maybe a first concert, something they would see you in a different light. What would be a cool story you would tell them?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay.
Uh, I've done a little traveling. I met my wife in Hong Kong. So my first date with my wife uh, was in Hong Kong,
Yeah.
and you know, m- uh, I was telling my mother this, and she thought, "Oh, it's so romantic." And she would tell her friends that, "Oh, my son's going to Hong Kong to meet this woman," and all her friends would say, "Oh, it's so romantic." Um, but to me, it was just an expensive way to have a date.
That's
I didn't
awesome.
see it quite that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: of everything that you've done and accomplished in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Getting an education and really as an author, finally accomplishing getting some of my stuff published and being able to continue working on that.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you. You can give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've gained over the years. What advice would you impart?
Continue with your education. Uh, I got a master's degree and I was in a PhD program, but I quit my PhD program. I would tell myself, get that degree, get that PhD. It'll make a big difference in your life.
So at the end of the day, Stephen, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, everyone in a professional sense, all of your readers, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Uh, I like to see myself as a thoughtful, reasonable, easygoing person. So I would just want to characterize myself like that.
So what's been one of your favorite reviews or fan letters from your work so far? One that sticks out.
I wish I had gotten more reviews. I haven't gotten enough.
Yeah,
However, those who have at least, given some feedback on, this book, which is on Amazon,
yeah,
have given me 5 stars. So there have been people who have liked the book.
yeah.
Um, and, I got a Facebook page, in which I post stuff about my books, excerpts from my books, and book trailers that I've created. And I get a lot of positive feedback from my followers for that stuff, which is always encouraging.
Yeah. So let me ask you this from a scientific standpoint. What's your favorite discovery? Favorite idea, favorite theory, favorite scientific notion?
I would say just overall, as a biologist, my background's biology, of course, evolution I find is central to what it means to be a biologist. So from that perspective, from my bio background, that I would say that underpins biology and my my fascination and my love for biology.
So if anyone wants to pick up your books, they want to look into anything else, any of the good business, they have any questions, where's the best place for them to go?
I would love for people to buy my book from Amazon.
Okay.
The Can You Rape a Robot book. It's there, and hopefully soon, probably this summer, sometime this summer, my next novel will be on there as well. Um, it's called The Secret of the Dragon's Scale. I'm
Okay.
working on getting that published and hopefully this summer up on Amazon.
Well, I will get the links in the show notes. Stephen, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. I appreciate
Sure.
it.
Nice to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
You too.
Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the Great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Vine Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.